My name is Gonzales. I was on the Board of Supervisors here in Santa Clara County from 1989 to 1997. My service on the board was preceded by another elective office when I served on the Sunnyvale City Council from 1979 to 1987 and served as that city's mayor on two different occasions, once in 1982 and once in 1987. I started my community involvement, as most people do, in my own neighborhood as a community activist around a particular land use issue in the downtown area of San Jose. And like many others, it progressed and blossomed from there. And before I knew it, I was running for the city council in Sunnyvale and was elected to that council in 1979 and had the opportunity to serve on that council for 8 years. And then during that time, of course, I was, as we say, my real job was working at Hewlett-Packard here in Silicon Valley. And when my term on the Sunnyvale City Council came to an end, I decided to run for the County Board of Supervisors. And that campaign took most of, if not all, of 1988, and I was elected and began my service on the Board of Supervisors in January 1989. Well, I think the most important thing, well, there are a lot of important things, but one of the things that I was very proud of when I was elected to the Board of Supervisors was that I was the first member of the Latino community to be elected to the Board of Supervisors. And it was something that I was very proud of. It's not something that I campaigned on. That was not an reason to vote for me, primarily because the district I ran in, which covered about half of the city of Sunnyvale, all of the city of Milpitas, and the Berryessa neighborhood of San Jose, and about half of East Side San Jose, was not predominantly Latino. So the fact that I was elected, with my background in mind from a non-Latino district meant a lot to our community. In terms of my time on the Board of Supervisors, the 8 years that I was allowed to serve, because we had term limits back in those days, you could not serve more than 8 years in a row. I was very proud to lead on a number of major issues, particularly around transportation, effective government operations, and homeless issues. Yes, and in the area of running government more efficiently, we looked very closely, because of my background in the high-tech industry, I looked very closely at the work that we had not done in the area of technology. We did not have an information systems master plan for the county. As a result, many of our technology systems were outdated and did not provide, I think, the power that technology could to county workers. And thus, the services we provided to the people of Santa Clara were not up to par, in my opinion. Unfortunately, it was at a time when we didn't have a lot of money, so we came up with the concept, which we referred to at that time as technology bonds. And this was the idea of the county selling bonds to local investors and then using the revenue of those bonds to buy necessary technology infrastructure, much of which is still in place now and really prepared Santa Clara County for the 21st century. I thought it was an innovative approach addressing a very, very important and serious issue that the county had not addressed. I think the area that I spent the most time on was an area that I called transportation equity. At the time when I was on the Board of Supervisors, particularly the first 6-7 years, the Board of Supervisors ran the Santa Clara County Transit Agency. We served as its board of directors. So we set policy. We decided where bus routes were going to go, where transit lines were going to go, and we did the long-range planning for the infrastructure investments that this county was going to spend in addressing the transportation needs of our community residents. And I felt, coming to the board, that the needs of those that were most transit dependent, lower income families, particularly the East Valley area, were not being served appropriately and adequately, and the long-term plans really didn't address places like East San Jose and Evergreen and the Berryessa neighborhoods of our valley. So I advocated very strongly for those areas and was delighted that during my time on the board, when we adopted a new master plan, long-range plan for transportation, it included a light rail extension into the East Valley area, servicing those neighborhoods I just spoke about. In addition to that, I became a very strong advocate for extending BART into Santa Clara County and into San Jose. And of course, my work on that issue dated past my time on the Board of Supervisors into the time that I was the mayor of San Jose from 1999 to 2006. Those two transportation projects are very, very important to addressing both the overall commuter transportation needs of Silicon Valley, but most importantly, the needs of people who are most dependent on transportation. These are folks that take transit to their jobs, to their doctor's appointments, and even to shopping. So I was very pleased that we put in place what hopefully will get built here in the short period of time. It was at a time when voters in Santa Clara County were more willing to invest dollars in transportation because of the tremendous transportation issues we had. People taking hours to get to work, hours to travel from one end of the valley to the other end, from where they live to where they work. And so it was an important time for the Board of Supervisors to kind of set the precedent that we were going to make sure that the needs of the most transit dependent were being addressed both short-term and long-term. I would say that's the most significant accomplishment. The other challenge we had in county government, and you still have it today, is the issue of tremendous demands and not enough revenue to meet those demands. And that seems to be an ever-increasing problem with local government. The challenge, of course, with county government, as I used to say, is that it tends to be the least known level of government by the average voter, the average taxpayer. They'll know what their city hall does, they'll know what their state capitol does, and even their federal government. But when you knock on their door and you're campaigning for a county supervisor, and you tell them that you'd like their vote for a county supervisor, they usually ask, "What do you supervise?" Because they have very little knowledge about county government. And so that makes it difficult to meet the demands that the system carries on, all in the social safety net areas of social services, a criminal justice system, and areas that most taxpayers don't use those services. So it's difficult. So one of the biggest challenges facing our Board of Supervisors when I was there was the long-term issues associated with Valley Medical Center. Tremendous program, tremendous hospital, but a very big price tag. Hospitals are very costly operations. So we had a very active and live debate about how we should proceed in terms of meeting the health needs and serious medical issues facing Santa Clara County residents. So there was quite a bit of debate about that. I felt that we needed to draw in the private sector a lot more than we did. I was not on the prevailing side of that issue, but in the long reach, in the long term, the decision was made, and the hospital is getting expanded and improved upon, and hopefully will be a better resource in the future for our people. Every time you had a budget hearing, there was a very memorable event, a very painful experience. I mean, it's hard to sit there. I remember one particular budget year, we had to cut something like $300 million from the budget. And we were making choices between TB shots for children or helping people finish their rehab programs for alcohol or drug abuse. Those are the kinds of decisions that don't make it easy to sleep at night, and yet we had hundreds of those. So any time you have that kind of environment, you have advocates on all sides. They're there to advocate from the heart. They sometimes don't understand that we have no choice but to balance a budget at the local level. Unlike Congress, we can't print money. So they get very active about that and very critical. And so each of us took our shots from the public for the decisions we were making. There's no doubt about that. But that's what we're voted into office to do. We have to make the tough decisions, and there's no one else that's going to do it but the Board of Supervisors. So it's always that constant trying to meet the community need with not enough resources. And at a time when I was in the board, it seemed like every year was a very difficult financial year. We had no really good years where we had any type of surplus funds to try to expand services. Well, I think one of the things that's really memorable for me during the time I was on the Board of Supervisors was the opportunity to ascend to that office with the help of my role model, which was my father, Robert Gonzales, or many people know him as Bob Gonzales. And I know that he was very proud to see me get elected and to get sworn in. And having been my hero and my role model, it was great to have him by my side. He actually volunteered in my office. And I know that a lot of people associated with the county and were active in the county knew my father. And so it was a great opportunity to share that experience with him because he had retired from work. And as my mom said, can't you give this guy something to do? So it was a wonderful experience. And unfortunately, he passed away in my second term. So he didn't see me complete that office and later go on to be elected mayor. But I know that he would have been very proud. And I only say that because to this day, I still run into people in the corner grocery store or at the gas station who knew my dad and knew me and reminisce about that together. So it was a delightful opportunity to serve the public, and to this day I thank them for trusting in me to help run the county government.